Well, I just thought I'd give you a quick update on how to use the ivreg function in the library AER. This library you'll need to download in order to use the instrumental variables regression. Firstly, this first little script here is what I put up online with one little change here, so 1.6 plus 5. So you'll firstly need to run this script. It's already included with the homework. This reads the data, the Penworld table from last week. It filters the years between 2010 and 1985. And then for each country, which is denoted by its ISO code, we summarize this data so that we have an average savings rate over the period, the last GDP per person relevant to the United States, and the population growth rate over the time. Because there were some missing values in the investment rate over that period, we filter out the missing values, and then I add 3 new columns. The first one is the log of that GDP per capita relative to the United States, second the log of the investment rate, and the third is the log of N plus G plus delta, which we went over in the homework. Now this week I've given you some data from the Adjumolu, Johnson and Robinson paper, which I hope you all enjoyed, and we can run that just by saying load AJR.rdata. I've saved this file here in the folder that I'm working from. So I can select all of that, reads my data. I've got Penworld table 2, which has all these countries, and the Adjumolu data, which looks like that. We've got an ISO code here, and in the Penworld table data. This ISO code means that I can join these 2 data sets. So I can take this data set here and merge it to this data set here so that, for instance, the entries for Afghanistan will line up with the entry for Afghanistan here, but it's going to add 2 new columns. I presume this is Angola. We're going to line that one up as well. Let's do that first. So let's create something called pwt.3, and I'm going to use the function left join. Left join, what it does is keeps all of the values that are in the left data set and merges on any matches that are in the right hand data set. If there are no matches, it will keep the row that's in the left hand data set but just have NAs in the 2 columns that it adds on. So we're going to join pwt.2 and Adjumolu. Okay, it had a warning message just because the character types were different. Don't need to worry. Let's have a look at pwt.3. Beautiful. So now we've got ISO code, investment rate, income per capita relative to the United States, population growth rate, the logs of them, and the 2 new variables. I notice in the Adjumolu data there's a lot of missing numbers. We're going to have to drop those. So how about, let's do that now. We'll go filter, which drops or selects the rows we want to keep. We don't want missing values in, what was it? AVEXPR. And we don't want missing values in log EM4, I think that was AVEXPR, this is average expropriation risk, and the log of it, settler mortality. Okay, so let's do that. Now we've got 73 countries down here. Beautiful. So no missing values now. That's all clean. We're ready to go. Okay, so the point of the Adjumolu, Robinson and Johnson paper was that you could use settler mortality as a sort of natural experiment that would determine institutions today. The notion is that countries that had higher settler mortality because of fever and mosquitoes and that sort of thing, these countries would have extractive institutions foisted upon them, and consequently those institutions would have long-run effects as you empowered brigands and thieves to run the country. essentially. Their hypothesis was that settler mortality back in the day should have no impact on output today other than through its effect on institutions. And this is the exclusion restriction. So I've asked you to discuss that in the homework. So once we've come up with that, we can, that instrument, we're saying that this log of the settler mortality instruments for average expropriation risk, which is our proxy here for institutions, then you can run it using the ivreg. Now you will have to have loaded this library here, AER, to do that. Let's do this. So we're going to say, call something called ivmod. You can call it whatever you like. Ivreg, which is the function. My dependent variable is it lny? And then we have, as the independent variables, avexpr. That's our proxy for institutions. And then we've got log of savings investment. We're assuming that savings is equal to investment. We're going to make a closed economy assumption. It's probably wrong. ln ngd. And our data is equal to pwt.3. Now let's first of all, rather than running this as an IV regression, let's just do lm and look at the IV mod. Okay, so let's look at the coefficient estimates here. That's looking quite high. So 0.76 divided by 1.76 is, about 0.45 or so. And this is very, very, very low. These seem like fairly crazy estimates. So let's now instrument our average expropriation risk with our settler mortality. The reason that we may want to instrument this is because we're concerned that everything else, the other things that influence NGD, savings, and GDP per capita, are also influencing the expropriation risk. We want to only pull out the exogenous variation in that. How we do that is, first of all, we use the ivreg function. We have all of our independent variables on the right-hand side, including the endogenous independent variable. And then on the right-hand side, we have our instruments and the control variables. So these are control variables here. These are the instruments. Oh, sorry, this is the endogenous variable. So over here we have log em4, which is our instrument, plus lns plus ln ngd. Look what's happened. So we've gone from an estimate 0.39 to an estimate of 0.83. This has fallen in value from 0.76 to 0.43. That implies an alpha of about 0.3. And this has shrunk back quite a bit towards 0. It's still not a great estimate. These two imply very different alphas. This one implies an alpha of about, 0.66, and this one is about 0.3. But they're much closer to each other, so we might think this is a better model. You'll also notice that these two, once we look at institutions, these two have no significant impact on, they don't have stars here, so we can't say that they are different from 0. Very good. So that is how you implement an instrumental variables regression in R using this Penwell table data and Adjumolu's dataset. I hope you found this useful.